Heartwarming reunion. Millionaire discovers his childhood love selling lemonade, an incredible twist of fate. Jake Thompson stood at the edge of his company's sprawling terrace, overlooking the glimmer of a million city lights. He had it all: money, respect, the feeling of success. But for every penny in his bank, a weight in his chest grew heavier. Enveloped in a sea of glittering suits and clinking glasses at a charity gala, he overheard a story so powerful it pulled at the very fabric of his heart. A young girl named Ellie was selling lemonade to fund her mother's cancer treatments. The twist? The girl's mother was none other than Lily, the first love who still flickered in his soul like a candle in the dark. Memories flooded over him: summer days spent under a sweltering sun, laughter shared over lemonade stands, his childhood promise to always protect her. Each recollection was golden and bittersweet, leaving him restless. What had he become? That thought set his mind ablaze. In a whirlwind of nostalgia and guilt, he hopped on the first flight back to his hometown, determined to reconnect. Driving down Main Street, the familiar landscape triggered waves of joy and sorrow in equal measure. The charm of his small town had faded. The graffiti splattered, boarded-up windows whispered of lost dreams, and the silence felt deafening. Jake's heart sank as he passed the vacant shops, where once vibrant laughter echoed. This place, where neighbors helped each other survive, now seemed lost in despair. Was it still home? He spotted the lemonade stand, worn and weathered, yet still standing proudly. And there was Lily, a warm smile on her face though shadows danced behind her eyes. Time had altered her, but he recognized the spirit, the girl who once dreamed beside him. Their initial conversation felt like stepping on shards of glass, sharp and unfamiliar. Years of silence hung between them like an invisible wall as they tiptoed around fragile feelings. Jake offered to help, his desire to rescue colliding with an unexpected wariness in her gaze. "Jake, I appreciate it, really. But," Lily trailed off, her expression a mixture of gratitude and resentment. He could sense the hesitation, the years of struggle etched into the lines of her face. The town had grown wary of those who made it, and rightfully so. Each small step towards acceptance was met with glances of skepticism from old friends turned critics. They didn't trust him. They saw a sellout, a man who left while they stayed to fight. Right then, as they were beginning to find common ground, disaster struck. Rumors buzzed about a corporation wanting to buy the land, a nail in the coffin for their community. Ellie's lemonade stand symbolized hope, yet here it was, seemingly destined to be crushed under greed. The devastating news threw the community into a frenzy, igniting a fire that rekindled lost connections. Neighbors united, voices rose in solidarity. They would not lose what little they had to as Jake stood on the sidelines, heart racing. The choice loomed before him: his wealth or his roots. Could he be the bridge between two worlds, or would he remain the outsider, forever haunted by the girl who once held his heart? Tension crackled in the air, each choice heavier than the last. Hope and fear swirled around him. Jake took a deep breath, realizing that this wasn't just about him and Lily. It was about finding a way back to community, back to each other, back to everything they'd lost in pursuit of dreams. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The challenge ahead became clearer. They weren't just fighting for Ellie's stand anymore. They were fighting for the soul of their community. Could Jake lead the charge and heal the past, or would the past consume him whole? The stakes had never been higher. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting an orange glow that hovered over the town, almost as if it was trying to breathe new life into the streets. Jake, his heart racing, turned to Lily, searching for any sign of hope in her eyes. They were surrounded by the murmurs of the townsfolk. A mix of fear and determination echoed in their voices. Jake could feel it too. He wanted to be part of this fight, but how? "Lily," he said, urgency lacing his voice, "we have to rally everyone. If we get enough support, we can fight back. Maybe even organize a fundraiser to save the land." Lily looked torn, caught between the memories that had once tied them and the weight of the present reality pressing down on her. And what if they don't listen? What if it's too late? Her hesitance stung him. Jake understood all too well that his absence over the years had left scars. She had been the one who faced hardships without him, and yet here he was eager to jump in, trying to make things right. Let us not think about that right now. Let us focus on what we can do. We'll have the entire community on our side. He stood a little taller, trying to inspire confidence, but even he felt the weight of history pushing him down. What do you say? Can we try? For a moment, her resolve cracked, and Jake caught a glimpse of the hopeful girl he once knew. Finally, she nodded, albeit slowly. Okay, let us try. As they began to gather the townsfolk, a strange energy began to swirl around them. The warmth of camaraderie filled the air as they shared stories of the past, memories of lemonade stands, and summer laughter. Everyone had a story, a connection to the land they wouldn't relinquish easily, not to a faceless corporation seeking profit. Jake felt more alive than he had in years. But still, a gnawing fear remained in the back of his mind. What if his wealth was the very thing that divided them? Could he, a man who had fled under the weight of ambitions, truly be the savior now that he was back? The first meeting at the community center was electric. Familiar faces stood shoulder to shoulder, stories spilling out like bright colors on a canvas. The room pulsed with determination. Lily and Jake took turns rallying support, their voices weaving a tapestry of hope and anger against the corporation's greed. Toward the end, as the meeting wound down, an elderly gentleman stood up. His voice trembled with emotion. We've built something here. For us. For our families. For our children. Are we going to let someone come in and take that away? The entire room erupted into applause, and a wave of energy washed over Jake. A potent mix of exhilaration and anxiety coursed through him. He realized, in that moment, that he was no longer just an outsider. He was part of something that mattered, something that could change their fate. But as the applause faded and the crowd began to disperse, Jake caught Lily's eye. There was a heaviness to her gaze. Something unsaid lingered between them, deep and unyielding. Could this fight heal the fractures of their past? Would it be enough to bring them back together? Jake searched her face, hoping to find answers, but only encountering uncertainty. They had the community's spirit behind them, but could they trust each other enough to allow their hearts to mend? As they walked out together into the dimming light, a sudden gust of wind blew, rustling the fresh flyers they had printed and scattered them like confetti in the air. The symbol of their fight danced against the backdrop of a setting sun, and for the first time in years, Jake felt a true sense of purpose. Yet, the road before them had just begun. Would they have the strength to face whatever was coming next? And as they moved forward, a question loomed larger than life. Could one act of courage be enough to forge a new beginning, or would it simply lead them further apart? The next morning, the sun was already high in the sky, illuminating the town like it had renewed its vows with hope. Jake stood on the porch of the community center, the smell of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air. His heart felt a bit lighter, the weight of yesterday's meeting still buzzing in his veins. He believed in what they were doing, but the shadows of doubt still flitted around in the back of his mind. He spotted Lily arriving, her ponytail bouncing slightly as she walked, and despite the unease still lingering between them, he couldn't help but smile. She walked up the steps with purpose, her eyes sparkling with determination. "Good morning," she said, a hint of a smile teasing her lips. "Morning. Ready to tackle the day?" His voice was bright, edging on confidence. "Let us hope so," she replied, glancing towards the bustling crowd beginning to gather. "I've got some ideas for attracting more support." Before they could dive into a deeper conversation, the elderly gentleman from the meeting, Mr. Henderson, approached them. His frail frame belied a strength Jake had only begun to appreciate. "Jake, Lily," he began, "I've been thinking about how we can really mobilize this community. If we're going to save this land, we need more than just voices. We need action." "Absolutely," Lily chimed in, her spirit lifting. "What did you have in mind?" Henderson's eyes glinted with mischief. "I say we throw a community picnic. Food, games, music. We invite everyone. It'd be a great way to raise funds and get people invested again. Show them what we're fighting for." Jake's heart raced. The idea ignited excitement in him. "We can set up a donation booth. And games for the kids. Exactly. Henderson beamed. We'll use the proceeds to hire a lawyer to fight back against the corporation. And if it draws in others who don't know about our fight, even better. Lily nodded in agreement, her earlier hesitance melting away. I can organize volunteers for the picnic. We'll need people to set up and clean up too. As they exchanged ideas, Jake felt the pull of the community tightening around them. This was it, the beginning of something special. But that warmth couldn't quench the uncertainty that still gnawed at him. Later, as they worked together to distribute flyers and reach out to locals, they fell back into a rhythm that felt familiar. Every laugh, every shared glance carried with it a hint of their past bond that had not fully been lost. But when their hands brushed while passing out flyers, a spark ignited, forcing Jake's heart to skip a beat. He wanted to reach for her, to explore what lay behind her guarded expression, but fear held him back. Jake, she caught his eye, moments later, her tone shifting. What if this doesn't work? What if we're just getting everyone's hopes up? His own uncertainty mirrored hers. What if it does work? What if we can make a difference? Lily's gaze softened. I want to believe that. I need to protect myself, you know? We've got so much at stake. Look, he said, stepping closer, we can't let fear stop us. Together, we can show the town that they've got support. Just like when we were kids, right? We had each other's back. Yeah, she whispered, a faint smile creeping up. We did. As they stood amidst bustling townsfolk preparing for the picnic, the air crackled with potential. But questions loomed unanswered. Were they still just two kids in a sandbox, or could they build something greater together? Would the community's outpouring of support heal the rift between them, or would it bring up wounds that were better left closed? The sun hung low in the sky again, shadows stretching long as they exchanged a look that held unspoken promises. Just then, a news van pulled up, bringing a whole new wave of anxiety as they prepared to share their story. What attention would the town draw? Would it help? Or would it only amplify the stakes they were already fighting against? The air hummed with uncertainty, and Jake felt a storm brewing, one that could either break them apart or bring them closer than ever. The news van's engine purred to a halt, its doors swinging open as the crew spilled out, transforming the peaceful afternoon into a frenzied buzz of cameras and microphones. Jake couldn't help but feel a tightening in his chest. This was at the moment they'd been waiting for. Or was it the moment everything could go wrong? Stay calm, he whispered to himself, though his heart raced wildly. He turned to Lily, who wore a mix of excitement and anxiety. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, his resolve hardening. Okay, everyone, Jake called out, trying to gather the attention of townsfolk who were still milling about, unaware of the dramatic turn the day was taking. This is our moment. Let us show them what we're made of. Lily stepped beside him, her presence grounding him. Let us get our message across. She encouraged, her voice cutting through the clamor. The news crew quickly moved to set up. Mr. Henderson, ever the thoughtful planner, strode over. Let us make sure we highlight the good here. The community picnic isn't just about funding. It's about unity. We want our story to inspire. The crew focused their cameras on the trio as they spoke about their dream of preserving the land. As Jake shared their hopes for the future, he found strength in their voices. The picnic would be more than just a fundraiser. It would show that this town cared together. But as the lights flashed, Jake couldn't help but notice a flicker of unease in Lily's eyes. You okay? He asked, leaning into her. I just hope the positive message shines through, she replied, biting her lip, uncertainty threading her voice. There's so much at stake, and everyone's watching. Just then, a voice broke through the murmur of the crowd. A woman shouted, "Look!" She pointed towards the gathering crowd, where shadows of discontent began to shift. Some people in the back started murmuring skeptically. A few even crossed their arms, not ready to believe that this picnic would yield anything but empty promises. Jake's stomach twisted. He felt the weight of their shared memories and the stakes that were now so real, like a line drawn in the sand. They had to rally everyone around hope. We can't let doubt eat at us, he said, raising his voice above the din. We have a chance to come together and fight for what's ours. He turned to the crowd, feeling the reverberation of their collective energy. Let us show the world we want to go quietly. We can rally together, support this fight, and rebuild our community. Lily's eyes sparkled with a mixture of admiration and fear. She stepped closer, fueled by his words. We're not just fighting for land. We're fighting for our home. For everyone who feels like they don't have a voice. As she spoke, something lit within Jake, a conviction sharpening his focus. But, just as quickly, doubt tugged at the corners of their enthusiasm. Would the community respond? Would they really believe in this? Suddenly, a voice rose from the edge of the crowd, one filled with anger. What makes you think we should trust you? Your promises mean nothing. The harshness of the tone sent chills through Jake's confidence. Are we all just supposed to forget how hard it's been? Another voice chimed in. It felt like their hope was colliding with a wall of skepticism, and Jake's heart raced with the urgency of what lay ahead. Listen, he shouted, desperation creeping into his tone. We're here because we care. We need every single one of you to not just believe in this fight, but to join it. Together, we can create something beautiful. The crowd's murmur shifted again, with some nodding, others remaining guarded. Jake could feel Lily's tension beside him, her voice steadying. We are a community, she added urgently. We've shared joys and heartaches. Don't we want to keep building on that? Don't we want a chance to thrive again? As the sun began to dip below the skyline, its glow casting long shadows on the ground, Jake realized they couldn't let this moment slip away. They had to find a way to connect, bridge those divides. And just as he was about to speak again, a familiar figure emerged from the back of the crowd. It was someone from their childhood, someone they thought was long gone. Someone who could change everything. Is that? Jake's voice trailed off, his heart pounding as he wondered how this might alter the fate of the picnic and the community's spirit. Jake's eyes widened as the figure approached. It was Ethan, his childhood best friend. Time had changed him. The scruffy-haired kid they used to chase fireflies with now stood tall in a tailored suit, but that familiar spark in his eyes hadn't dimmed. A mixture of disbelief and hope flooded through Jake. Ethan, is that really you? Jake stammered, stepping forward. What are you doing here? Ethan smiled, but it was tinged with uncertainty. I heard about the picnic while visiting my parents. Thought I'd see what my old town is up to. And I didn't expect to find you leading a charge. Lily stepped back, letting the two friends reconnect. I think we could really use your help right now, she said, her voice laced with relief. Ethan raised an eyebrow, glancing at the crowd that was shifting nervously, caught between skepticism and curiosity. What is going on? We're trying to raise funds to preserve our community land. They're planning to put up a mall, and we want to stop it, Jake explained, urgency creeping back into his voice. Ethan looked taken aback. His face registered a mixture of surprise and concern. A mall? In our old playground? Exactly. Jake nodded, eagerness flooding his veins. There's so much at stake. It's not just land. It's our home, our memories. Ethan's expression softened as he scanned the crowd again. I see. But trust me, it's not just about doing what's right. You need a plan, a way to convince people. Can you help us? Lily's voice broke through the tension. You have connections, resources. If anyone can make an impact, it's you. Ethan hesitated, a hint of the boy Jake once knew flickering in his eyes. I don't know. I don't live here anymore. I don't even know what they want. You can't just back away now, Jake urged, feeling the wind in his sails because of Ethan's return. You were a part of this community. You still are. The crowd had softened, watching the reunion unfold. There was something genuine in their exchange that drew them in. Jake could see a shift, a light starting to spark among the doubtful faces. They were finding a connection. I missed this place, Ethan finally admitted, stepping closer. I don't know if I can make a difference. Can I even come back? Lily stepped between them, her voice steady. You don't have to do it alone, Ethan. Join us. We're all in this together. You know how important it is. You know what this town means to all of us. Ethan clenched his jaw, glancing at the murmurs in the crowd. Slowly, understanding dawned on him. All right, let us see what we can do. I'm in. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. People began to nod and murmur among themselves. The flicker of hope shifted to a cascade. Jake felt the rush of adrenaline surge through him. Ethan's presence, his energy could ignite a fire. The crowd began to gather closer, listening as Ethan stepped onto the makeshift platform beside Jake and Lily. Listen, everyone. I'm back, and I want to help my hometown get back what it deserves. Together, let us prove that we still care. With each word, the skepticism in the crowd appeared to wane. Jake could feel the tide of the moment turning, just as twilight cast its warm glow over them. But in that moment of hope, a voice erupted from the far side of the gathering. "What makes you think we can trust you? You left us behind." Jake's heart sank. They had come so far, but doubts still lingered like shadows. How could they resist the weight of the past while trying to fight for the future? He turned to look at Ethan and Lily, determination burning bright. They couldn't falter now. They had to find a way to connect heart to heart, to change minds and rekindle trust. "Let us hear what they really want. We need to talk to them, and fast," Jake declared. The question hung in the air. Would they find common ground, or would the past linger too heavily for hope to bloom? Ethan's face turned serious as he took in the crowd's tense reaction. He stepped forward again, his voice more steady than before. "I get it. I left. I moved on, and it felt like this place became just a memory. But standing here today, I realized this place shaped me more than I ever knew." The crowd began to murmur, curiosity pushing past caution. Jake noticed a few familiar faces, old friends from the neighborhood, some even from his childhood. With every look of recognition, old emotions resurfaced, and hope began to crack the people's tough exterior. "What if we start by listening?" Lily suggested, her voice carrying reassurance. "Let us invite everyone to share what this land means to them. Perhaps all of us have something to gain by working together." Ethan nodded in agreement, encouraged by her positivity. "Yeah, we should have a community meeting, one where everyone can voice their thoughts. This is about all of us," he said, surveying the crowd. "Let us create a space where past hurts can turn into understanding." Slowly, more people began to step forward. An older man with a weathered face spoke first, his voice cracking slightly. "This land, it's where my kids played. It's where my wife and I had our first picnic after we got married. It means family to me." A woman chimed in, holding her young daughter's hand. "I grew up here too. We've planted trees in that park, and I want my girl to have those same memories." The emotion in her voice pulled at Jake's heartstrings. Ethan listened intently, collecting the stories like precious gems. Jake watched with pride as his friend leaned into the moment, the fire inside him growing. It was becoming less about his return and more about their shared history. As the stories flowed, the crowd began to transform. Skepticism softened into solidarity as a tapestry of memories intertwined, binding them together through joy and loss. Once the voices trailed off, Lily stepped forward. "We need to show the town how much we value this place, not just for us, but for future generations. We can organize events, craft fairs, family picnics, and even invite the developers to hear our stories." The murmurs of agreement filled the air. Jake felt electric. He hadn't seen this kind of unity since he was a kid. But then, from the back, a loud voice rose again, this time filled with anger. "And what about those of us who don't want to stay behind? What if we want change? You can't just push for something because it's sentimental." The question struck at the heart of the gathering. Jake felt the weight of the moment. They needed to address the divide, not just bandage over it. "Change can be good," Ethan began, his voice calm yet strong. "But it's not always at odds with what we cherish. This land isn't just dirt and trees, it's our identity. And instead of fighting against the idea of a mall, maybe we could propose something different. A place that respects our community." Suddenly, that spark within the crowd ignited again. Eyes lit up with inspiration. "What if the mall included a community center?" Someone shouted. "Or a farmer's market?" Another chimed in. Ethan grinned. "Exactly. Let us turn this into a project that shines. Together, we can create a vision that incorporates everyone's needs." As excitement swept through the crowd, Jake looked at Lily, and in that moment, a shared understanding passed between them. This was more than just saving land. It was about rekindling connections and reshaping the future together. But just then, Jake felt the tension shift again. Another voice cut through the chatter, louder and more alarmed. "What if the developers won't listen? What if all this effort is for nothing?" Silence fell, and Jake felt his heart race. Would they be able to forge ahead, or was the darkness of doubt truly insurmountable? The journey felt as long as the summer's day, and he had to wonder, how hard would they fight for what they loved? Ethan turned to the crowd, taking a deep breath. The unease was palpable. "I know it feels like we're at the end of our ropes, but remember what we're fighting for. It's not just about land. It's about us. It's about memories and dreams," he urged, his voice ringing with determination. Jake felt a surge of admiration for his friend. Ethan was channeling the spirit of the town, the very essence that had shaped them all. But doubt lingered like a heavy fog, clouding hope. As murmurs rippled through the crowd, a young man stepped forward, his brow furrowed. Ethan, I appreciate your passion, but what if they have the power to bulldoze through our dreams? Maybe we should be preparing for the worst instead of hoping for a fairy tale. Lily looked at the young man, her eyes steady. What if we're the ones who can change the ending? What if we stand up and voice our dreams so loud they can't ignore us? A couple behind them nodded, their expressions shifting from skepticism to intrigue. We've fought long and hard to hold on to this place. We owe it to our kids and to ourselves to at least try, the woman whispered. The energy shifted again. People began to rise, sharing snippets of their dreams. I want my daughter to run through that park, just like I did. Someone else shouted, and I want my grandfather's garden to flourish with new life. Each voice added to a swell of collective spirit. Jake felt a warmth blooming in his chest. They weren't merely sharing fears. They were igniting a fire, breathing life back into their community dream. Ethan raised a hand, bringing back the crowd's focus. Let us create a platform where we can share our vision. Not just the nostalgia, but the path forward. We need specific ideas. A woman with bright blue nails stood up, speaking passionately about introducing art and music festivals, suggesting, if we show how the community can thrive here, we give them something to think about, maybe even changing their plans. Excitement blazed through them. Jake could see it on their faces. Even the most doubtful began to imagine possibilities. This is about us. We might surprise them, Ethan mused. We've got more power than we realize. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the crowd. They were no longer just a collection of individuals. They were a united front, fueled by shared histories and dreams for the future. Okay, let's get to work. We can start a website and gather signatures. Showcase how this space can be transformed into something beautiful, Lily suggested, her enthusiasm infectious. Keeping the momentum alive felt crucial. As ideas flew back and forth, Jake caught a glimpse of Ethan's face, proud and determined like a beacon in the storm. But then Jake returned to the voice of fear that had whispered before. What if the developers did turn a deaf ear despite all their efforts? What if they succeeded in drowning out their voices with money and power? Wait, Jake called out, raising his hand. What if they don't care about our plans? What if our dreams fall on deaf ears? The air thickened with hesitation as silence enveloped the crowd. Would their fragile hope withstand the pressure? Jake's heart raced. He could feel the shift in energy pulling them back toward doubt. And in that moment of stillness, he looked at Ethan and Lily, searching for strength. What if we gather everyone's stories into a book, something they cannot ignore? A powerful message from all of us. The crowd stirred, eyes lighting up at the new idea. But beneath that growing excitement, Jake felt the shadows of uncertainty creeping back. They were at the crossroads of hope and fear. Which path would they choose? The moment hung thick in the air, charged with possibility and trepidation. Jake scanned the faces around him. Some eyes glimmered with hope, while others still held the weight of insecurity, a flicker of fear hidden behind the spark of enthusiasm. Ethan stepped closer to Jake, a steadying presence. That's brilliant, he said, his eyes brightening. A collection of our stories can be our battle cry. We can share not just our dreams, but our struggles, our joys, and our hopes. He turned to the crowd again. Everyone has a story worth sharing. Let us capture it. Together, we'll show them it's not just about buildings and profits, but about lives intertwined in this amazing community. The crowd erupted into chatter, the energy shifting again. Everyone began to share snippets of their lives, their connections to every tree, every corner of the park. My father used to take me fishing there, one man stated, his voice trembling. A woman shared memories of school plays held in the old amphitheater. A little girl raised her hand, and my mom always says that the swings are magic. Lily's face lit up as she scribbled down each idea, her bright blue nails tapping against the notebook. This is what we need. A book filled with our experiences, our love for this place. How can they ignore that? Jake caught Ethan's eye, and for a moment, he felt a mutual understanding spell between them, a recognition of the stakes. Could their dreams truly transcend the corporate bulldozer looming on the horizon? Let us divide into groups, Ethan commanded. Some can gather stories, others can work on designs and layouts. We need to show them our heart. He smiled, and it felt like the sun burst through the clouds. The crowd seemed rejuvenated, every person illuminated with a shared purpose. As people sprang into action, buzzing with their small teams, Jake felt a swell of optimism. He joined a group focused on gathering oral histories. He wanted to listen, to understand better what tied each of them to the land and to one another. There was a beauty in the effort. It was creating bonds once more, reigniting friendships, and strengthening old ones. But doubt still echoed faintly in Jake's mind. Amidst the excitement, the lurking fear of dismissal loomed over them. They were facing powerful entities who often viewed towns as mere commodities. Could their book really make a difference? He wanted to shake that thought away, to cling to the rising tide of belief. Hours passed as laughter blended with heartfelt tales. The night deepened, but shadows didn't creep in quite as they had before. Instead, they felt illuminated by the stories taking shape. Still, a knot hung in Jake's stomach as he recalled the cold, hard truth. No matter how compelling their narrative was, it might not cut through the clamor of profit-driven plans. The sudden shout drew his attention. A tall woman had climbed onto a picnic table. "Let us surrender our stories, make our magic known," she cried, and a rush of cheers followed. It was a moment of connection. Jake saw hope igniting again in people's faces. But just as abruptly, the moment turned. An unexpected figure appeared at the edge of the gathering, a man in a crisp suit, eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. The crowd hushed, tension blooming as uncertainty reared its head once more. "What does he want?" Jake whispered, his heart racing. The oily smile on the man's face only deepened the unease encircling the crowd. As Jake's breath quickened, he shared a nervous glance with Ethan and Lily. They stood together at the edge of this unfolding story, wondering if they could finish the chapter that loomed ahead, if only they knew how to confront this new challenge. Would they stand united to face whatever the man wanted, or would the moment's magic dissipate, leaving behind only doubt once more? Jake felt a chill run down his spine as the suited man strode confidently into the gathering, the sunlight glinting off his polished shoes. There was an air of arrogance about him, something that pinned a shroud of apprehension over the crowd. Silence stretched like taffy. Faces that had danced with joy now hardened, brows knitting together. The man raised his hands, palms outward, attempting to calm the unease. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice smooth as silk. "I'm here to talk about progress, about the future of this land you love so dearly." He glanced around, taking in the expressions, some skeptical, others curious. "What future?" someone shouted from the back, a voice tinged with anger. "The kind that flattens our homes and memories for a shopping complex?" There were whispers of agreement, eyes darting from the man to each other as tension surged. Unfazed, the man leaned forward, his smile still plastered on his face, tinged with just a hint of condescension. "What I propose is an opportunity growth for this community. Imagine better jobs, a revitalized park." His words were slick, but Jake felt the steel beneath them. Business often disguised itself in glittering promises. Ethan took a step forward. "And what about the stories that tie us to this place? What about the lives behind those dreams you talk about?" His voice was firm, cutting through the fog of the man's rhetoric. The crowd shifted, voices rising in support of Ethan's challenge. Jake's heart pounded. This was the moment. Would they rally together? Could they make their stand? The man's smile faltered for a split second, just enough for Jake to notice. "Stories don't pay the bills," he replied, flippantly. "What matters is the bottom line." Lily gasped, her hands balled into fists against her notebook. "But our community is more than just figures on a spreadsheet," she shouted, her voice shaking with determination. Jake felt a swell of pride at her bravery. Each word she spoke was like a defiant flame flickering against the darkness. The man's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, Jake glimpsed the vulnerability lurking beneath the suit. "Do you really think this is about you?" he said, his tone sharper now. "This is business, and business doesn't care about sentiment." A chant began, slowly at first. "Our stories matter. Our stories matter." It bubbled up, rippling through the crowd, gaining strength and volume. The park vibrated with emotion and conviction, the sense of a united front swelling around Jake and his friends. But something deeper stirred within Jake. Was it enough? Would they stand firm against the storm of corporate ambition? Would their stories be just words in a book, or could they sway the tide? As the chant echoed, Jake caught a flicker of doubt in the man's eyes. But then, a practiced ease returned, his confidence reinforcing like a sudden downpour. "Enjoy your little revolution," he said, with a forced chuckle. "But know that time isn't on your side. Change is coming, whether you like it or not." With that, he turned on his heel and walked away, the promise of his presence lingering like a bad taste in the air. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. The crowd began to disperse, conversations milling about the clash they had just witnessed. "Did we just show him?" Ethan asked, eyes wide with adrenaline. "Maybe," Jake replied, but doubt coiled tightly in his chest. But he is not just a man in a suit. He represents something far more powerful. Together, they watched the man disappear, hearts heavy with uncertainty yet ignited with resolve. What comes next? Jake wondered aloud, looking at his friends with determination sparkling in his eyes. And as the evening sky began to darken, a creeping thought settled in. Could their unity truly wield the power to change the course of their fate? The days melted into a flurry of activity. The community picnic loomed closer, and with it, the pressure mounted. Jake, Lily, and Ethan rallied the townsfolk, their nerves tingling with excitement and trepidation. Ideas bounced around, each one sparking more enthusiasm. Every evening, laughter and chatter filled the local diner as they planned. The town slowly transformed, quickening with hope and energy, reminding Jake of those sun-soaked summers of his childhood. In the heart of the preparations, something new bloomed between Jake and Lily. They became more connected, sharing glances that spoke volumes. Every collaborative moment, every shared laugh seemed to stitch together the jagged pieces of their past into a cohesive whole. But shadows still whispered doubts into Jake's mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that despite their resolve, the looming corporate interest could snatch this dream away. The thought haunted him as they made final arrangements for the picnic. Would it be enough? On the day of the picnic, the sun beamed down, making the park sparkle like a long-lost jewel. Tension buzzed in the air, weaving through the throngs of people setting up booths. Children giggled as they played, their laughter mingling with the sweet scent of cotton candy. As Jake stepped onto the makeshift stage, he felt the weight of so many eyes on him. The crowd, diverse and vibrant, held stories that intertwined like strands of a tapestry. He cleared his throat, summoning every ounce of courage. "Thank you for being here today. We're not just here for a picnic, we're here for our dreams." His voice rang out with belief, the energy vibrant around him. "We're here to fight for our home." Cheers erupted, igniting a spark in Jake's heart. As people rallied around him, those early shadows of doubt began to ebb. He spotted Lily in the crowd, her eyes full of encouragement. Before he knew it, Ethan joined in, his passion igniting a fire. "This land is full of memories. Each and every one of us has a story worth fighting for." The crowd swelled with energy as they shared anecdotes of childhood and community, weaving a strong tapestry of unity that echoed through the park. In that moment, people began to recognize each other, old neighbors, friends, and long-lost childhood companions. Their stories spilled into conversations, laughter and tears mingling like colors on a canvas. The timing could not have been better. It felt like the very essence of the community was breaking free. Children raced towards their parents with painted faces, while vendors served lunch with smiles. The air thrummed with excitement, but still, the undercurrent of apprehension rested at the back of Jake's mind. Just as things seemed perfect, he noticed a shadow, that familiar crisp suit strolling through the park. Anxiety clawed at his throat. How could he ruin this moment? He quickly turned to the crowd, fueled by adrenaline. "Let us show them what we're made of," he declared, pointing towards the suited figure, who appeared to be lurking behind a tree, arms crossed. The collective spirit that had blossomed transformed the strength of hope into an unstoppable wave. People reacted instinctively. Finally, with one last rush of adrenaline, Jake strolled forward, heart pounding. "We'll prove to them that this community is not for sale." The cheers escalated, reverberating off the trees like a thunderous applause echoing past. The strange man strolled closer to the stage, ready to interrupt. "You really think this will stop progress?" His tone was mocking, but the crowd's unity vibrated through Jake. Your idea of progress is tearing apart memories. Someone shouted from the back, and making room for something that means nothing to us. A woman beside Jake added, her voice mounting in volume, galvanizing the group. With that, something shifted in the crowd. They faced the intruder, arms crossed and determination etched onto every visage. You want to take this from us? Ethan stepped forward, voice steady, projecting their shared resolve. Let me tell you something, this community won't go down without a fight. The energy that swirled throughout the park coalesced into defiance. People rallied and began to echo each other. We stand together. As the minutes unfolded, Jake realized something profound. Every voice amplified their aspirations, echoing against the very walls of doubt he had carried alone. They transformed their fear into strength, their uncertainty into hope. The suited man stepped back, brow furrowed in disbelief, the community's collective strength overwhelming him. The conviction that had rippled through the crowd seemed too sturdy to dismantle. He could see that they were resolute, inspired. As the sun set, warmth spilled through the air, and in that breathtaking moment, together, they had forged a boundary line against fear. Each individual standing firm, shoulder to shoulder, hearts linked in an unbreakable chain, lending each other strength. As Jake looked into Lily's glowing expression, he saw the future unfolding, undisturbed by the uncertainties, yet bright with possibilities. Their gaze locked, and amidst the chaos around them, he realized they had built something beautiful. In the years to come, they would look back on this day not just as a fight, but as the moment they rekindled a flame of belonging, a new beginning. Resplendent and shining bright, the echoes of the crowd singing their anthem resonated. Jake, with full heart and tears of joy, found his place, and not just in the community, but in Lily's life as well. They had transformed not just their aspirations, but their futures, all forged in unity, hope, and love. Now more than ever, it was time to stand together, proud of who they were and excited about what they would create. And while Jake and Lily still had challenges ahead, he knew they were ready to face them this time, hand in hand. This is your moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire your journey. If you enjoyed this ending, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this story alive. Comment your reactions and feelings. The transformations you witnessed today matter. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel hope and unity in their lives. Together, we can spread these powerful messages far and wide.